Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching
Fanboy.
Fanboy,
fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
God, I assume Tom.
This morning, I have the pleasure of speaking with a man who we recently celebrated the 35th anniversary of Vision Quest. He played Shute, the big baddie that you had to take out at Matthew Modine had to take out at the state championship. Frank Jasper, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
No complaints. You know, I'm by the beach. The sun's out. It's going to be 75 degrees today. So, you know, the rest of the country can hate me right now.
Yeah. That shitty California weather we have.
Right, that we're paying the high taxes for in order to survive the weather. You just recently moved to Carmel, California, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you.
You know, going to be neighbors with Clint Eastwood at some point.
Yeah, I'll be looking for him on one of the golf courses, maybe.
There you go, man. You know, the sport of wrestling is starting to have a resurgence, thanks to the internet primarily, also a bit thanks to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and mixed martial arts. There's been a lot of seminars coming about, wrestling for Jiu-Jitsu type deals. And then, you know, I think thanks to the internet, we've been noticing the sport's been growing because, you know, we got some heavy hitters out there, and then the Olympics got postponed to this year. So we got some stuff going on with the sport.
Yeah, and, you know, don't forget that women's integration into the sport has increase at like about 27 to 28%. And that's just a huge growth for the wrestling community. So we have like a whole new group of people, their parents, their family, their support. And women's wrestling is just kicking it, man. I'm so impressed with these ladies nowadays.
Which is hilarious because it's the whole cliche of what's old is now new again. Because during the original Olympics in ancient Greece, during downtime, the women Spartans would actually put on their version of dual meets for the ancient world, and the women would wrestle at those events.
Wow, that I did not know. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where Wonder Woman came from.
Probably, man. Spartan women are tough. My cousin's wife is Spartan, and I dated one, and I know when that temper flares up, how crazy they can get. You know. We just recently celebrated the 35th anniversary of the movie, which is a huge milestone because it still has such an impact on wrestling. Did you ever think, you know, being in college in Eastern Washington at the time, and they're like, oh yeah, that guy wrestles, let's pick him and put him in this movie, that 35 years later, well, 37 years when they first found you, so 37 years later, that it would have this much of an impact on the wrestling community?
Yeah, I just am completely amazed at the longevity. I thought it was kind of cutting edge, some of the issues that it tackled, some of the things that it talked about. I mean, if you look at it, it still resonates to these kids, you know, like, who am I? You know, what have I accomplished? How do I find myself? What are relationships like? You know, that whole story of coming of age is still, people are coming of age, I guess. And so what's cool is that there is this new surge in like Cobra Kai, still, you know, from the 80s. Wouldn't that be nice if they did a Vision Quest version of that?
Continuation of Vision Quest, huh? Shute comes back to exact his revenge as the new college coach.
There you go. There's all sorts of ways you can write this, man.
You know, at the time, I know you were in college, you were pre-med, you're doing this work, and you're like, okay, cool. It seems like it'd be fun doing this movie over in Spokane. It's a couple of towns over from, I believe it was Eastern Washington University that you attended?
Yeah, I was at Eastern Washington University, and it's only about 15 miles outside of Spokane. So it's close. And yeah, again, like when you said, like, how did you have any idea? Well, first, I had no idea what I was stepping into because my friend that told me about the part didn't tell me that there was lines involved. And I thought, well, because I was paying for my own education at the time, that this would be a good way for me to make money. and then also see how a movie got made. I thought, well, I'll be an extra in the background. I get to see how a movie gets made. I had no idea the character even had lines when I first started.
And then here you are running steps with a log on your back.
Which is, to me, just one of the coolest scenes ever. You know, and the fact that they just build this character up. They build this character up, and then you see this beast carrying this log up these stadium stairs, and you realize, like, nobody wants to mess with this guy.
Yeah. Let's go back to that scene, because that's the scene that introduces Shute to everyone in a visual aspect. You know, obviously running the stadium isn't strange for wrestlers. I mean, you know, when my knees actually worked, you know, we'd go up and down those stadium stairs like crazy. But, you know, with film, you have to shoot something 3, 4, 5 times. How many times did they make you run the stairs with this log on your back?
Well, it's so interesting because it looked like it was like a sunny, warm day, but it was in the Pacific Northwest, and it was a super cold winter fall day, and everybody in the cast were wearing parkas and hoods and gloves, and so I was out there in my little shorts and a tank top, and I couldn't even break a sweat. Actually, they had to spray glycerin on my face to make it look like I was sweating. And it was an entire day of shooting, you know, the stairs, because like you said, they got to do a long shot, they do a close-ups, they do back and forth. And so everything takes, you know, a lot of time, and the lighting has to be perfect and the sound has to be perfect. So, you know, a lot goes into just very small little, you know, vignettes throughout the movie.
And if you had really wrestled a match that afternoon, you probably would have lost, because you would have been rubber-legging it the whole time.
Pretty much, man. When you're carrying those, and by the way, what I loved is I keep seeing on Facebook and you know, Instagram, where kids have taken up that have seen the movie and have thrown a log on their back, and they're doing stairs, and I just cannot, you know, I'm just so excited every time I see one of those posts. Have
you ever seen a kid do that and then go up to him and go, you know, I'm the guy that originated that in the film? They're like, yeah, whatever, you know. Like, so
they kind of know who I am, and I really love it when they'll put that post out there, and this one's for you, Shute, you know. So they're very knowledgeable as far as the movie goes. These wrestlers know all the lines, they know all the scenes, they know every one of the characters, so they're pretty locked in. So when they post something like that, they usually will tag me.
You know, we've had other wrestling movies come about. American Wrestler, The Champion, recently came out. There was the one about David Schultz.
Foxcatcher. Yeah.
You know, but you know, even as great as American Wrestler was, and as good as you know, The Last Champion are, none of them have had the impact on the sport from a cinematic perspective the way Vision Quest did. Is it like the soundtrack? You know, there was a killer soundtrack. I mean, Madonna had 2 songs on the soundtrack. You know, everything that was going for it. It was small town Americana. There's like so much going for it. Is what makes you think that this really stands out? I mean, there, you know, we'll get into a little bit how you have a master's degree in Eastern medicine. But like, you know, Tai Chi's introduced at one point for Matthew Modine's character to help him try to focus, and so on and so forth.
You know, it's interesting when I go back, because I think that they really got inside and in the background, like you get to see inside a wrestling room. So I think that that's kind of unique for this movie as well, because, you know, just like when Linda Fiorentino comes to the thing and she goes, wow, this thing just smelled so bad in there. So, you know, all the wrestlers know that those wrestling rooms, you know, smell bad. And then they showed a lot of the different training techniques. And so it wasn't just all about the flash of the match. And it was all about, you know, the preparation and the hardcore, what Matthew had to do to drop the weight. And all wrestlers relate to this, I think, on all those levels. And the fact that you see the hard work being put in, then you respect that and you really understand it on another level. and they did a nice job. I mean, I feel like there was we really did capture in the final move, you know, the final scene of the match. There's some very good wrestling for that time. It's definitely progressed. It's definitely developed, and they have all this scrapping, scramble, diving at the angle, sitting on the corners, and all these new techniques. But it still has that basic, really solid foundation. There was, you know, takedowns and head and arms and reversals, and you know, it was some good wrestling. And I think they captured it. They got it from the big picture, they got it from the close picture, and they got it in the slow motion. So it still holds up to some degree. Now, there's certain things I would love to, like, oh, I wish we could have tweaked this. You know, when you go back and you look at it, like, oh, I wish that wouldn't have been there. That's not a good move. Like when Matthew reaches over, you know, and just swings his arm over the top of me. Hey, double leg blast all day long. You're dead. And you never reach over somebody's back like that, unless you're Bo Nichols, of course.
Well, we'll put that in context for a contemporary audience that has watched pro wrestling instead of our style of wrestling, whether it's folk or freestyle or Greco. You know, it's the big wind up that looks great for the camera. So
right.
I think we could let that slide in that regard. Let's go back to, because people have asked, thanks to Gene, who set this interview up for us. You know, how long did he really train for? You know, did they have a couple of months to train? You know, like no one has asked the question, were you a real wrestler back then? So let's go back into your wrestling origins, because as I've learned, you were an actual competitor.
Well, you know, my father was a black belt in judo. So in grade school, we were in the dojo and we were throwing and learning how to throw and learning how to land. And then there's ground techniques as well. So that was my first experience, other than just wrestling with my brother. You know how brothers do. He's 2 years younger, and you know, I got into wrestling with him quite a bit. Sometimes it didn't turn out too well. It got out of hand. But anyway, we had a good time. So I started out very young with wrestling, and it's the part of judo that accounts for that. So there's there's just body awareness that you learn at a really young age. And wrestling, by the way, teaches you kinesthetic awareness better than just about any other sport. And the only thing I think comes close is gymnastics. So it's just an incredible body awareness, space and time kind of a sport, as well as just learning to just become tougher on just so many different levels. Then I got exposed to wrestling for the first time as a freshman in high school. And I wrestled for 3 years, and then I did a segue, and I played tennis during one winter instead of wrestling. That was my senior, so that I could then get a scholarship, which I did. I got a scholarship for tennis, believe it or not. And then, so I went to North Idaho on a tennis scholarship. Interesting, North Idaho was one of the best junior wrestling colleges in the nation, period. So it's a really cool place to be a wrestler. I didn't know that. Then I graduated, and I went to work as an iron worker for 4 years. And during that break there, because they shut down the nuclear reactors for 6 months, I was on unemployment, and one of my brothers, my brother's 2 years younger, one of his friends got a scholarship to Pasco College on a wrestling scholarship, and he had nobody his weight to wrestle with. It was a small college. So I got to train with a team for that season, and he ended up winning 190 pound at the NJCAAs. So I was really happy for him. So that was my last wrestling experience before I went to Eastern Washington. And so it had been about 2 to 3 years before Vision Quest came along. By the way, I also still have lots of martial arts background besides judo. So I've always been involved in martial arts and loved it, and actually became a black belt in Aikido once I got to California. So I've always loved wrestling, martial arts, and then the Eastern philosophy.
Nice, man. So for the judokas out there, you sat there and were practicing Newaza on your little brother, and then moved into wrestling, and you're like, oh, here, let's try this uchikomi on you, and then we'll keep it going at 6 and 4 years old. The Eastern philosophy has been a big part of your life. I don't want to assume anything, but possible conversion to Buddhism or Taoism or something, or anything in that regard that helps you lead into the ideals of Eastern philosophy and Eastern medicine?
Okay, so here's an interesting little fact, and I was just drawn to it, and I think most kids are drawn to martial arts to some degree, but I was definitely fascinated with it. And in '72, there was a group that went from the United States to China and went behind the wall for the first time, and they were exposed to acupuncture. They were exposed to using acupuncture as anesthesia during actual operations, that the patient was awake, but they had acupuncture to block the nerves to prevent any pain. And I was just so fascinated with that article that I actually tore it out of Time magazine, folded it up, and put it in my nightstand next to my bed. I was in 4th grade. So there's something, me personally, I feel like I had some kind of past life experience. I really believe in past lives. I think these are just earth suits that we jump into. We learn some lessons, we get what we can out of it. We leave, we come back, we keep learning, we keep evolving. And I still think that, I still continue to work on myself and on my issues and try to be kinder to myself and to others. And, that's just why I feel like I'm here. I'm here to learn. I'm here to help, do what I can while I'm here. Hopefully make it a better place, before I leave.
And well, that's a great philosophy to have. And, we need more people to actually sit there and want to be better people rather than, how do I put this politely in this modern age where everyone's hypersensitive? Everybody's a goddamn know-it-all. Everyone knows everything. I think it was Robert Kiyosaki or Kiyosaki. Sorry, Robert, I can't pronounce your last name properly. The guy who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he said, Gen Z and millennials are the luckiest generation because they were born into technology and they have all the information in the world at their fingertips, yet they don't use it to their advantage the way they could. I have my phone right here. I can go to Library of Congress. I can do whatever, MIT has free courses for people to take. And, we could all do it from our pocket, basically. With that going around, what is your take on technology itself? And how do you unplug from technology that helps you go through your ideology with your medical practices in acupuncture?
So it's a tool. So let's just start there. Any tool can be used for good or for bad. And so the idea is that we have these fantastic technologies. We're using one right now. It affords us a chance to have this conversation and then to reach however many people we can. It can go across the country. It can go around the world now. It's so beautiful that you can have that connectivity. I have to tell you, I spent the first hour or almost 2 hours this morning. I just finished getting off a call with a Norton tech named Sam. And he said that we had been hacked, that people were using our IP address, that they were using it for child porn, for looking into different places in the country here. It was from outside of our country, actually. We spent the whole morning setting up a firewall, clearing out the hackers, clearing out the back doors. And so we have that to deal with. So again, it's about taking this technology and, like Robert says, how are you using it? Are we using it to benefit, to grow, to learn? I mean, I've been able to sit at home and do CEUs for my, to continue to get accreditation for my state board, and national board licenses. So, I mean, I can sit here and learn some of the latest techniques in acupuncture, herbology, about your immune system. And so, there it is. It's beautiful. And we have to be mindful. Like I said, I spent 2 hours plus this morning protecting just our little network here.
Wow. You've done so much with life itself. Let's go back real quick. We were sent a question. Were you really 165 pounds in filming the movie? And
this arm was 168 pounds for that leg.
Right, and people were cracking jokes that that Matthew had to actually cut weight to make weight. But people also forget that Matthew, I think, is like 6'3", 6'4", so he could actually be 165 at the time. I think he's 165 now.
No, the actual weight class in the movie was 168 pounds. So that was what we supposedly were wrestling at. Now, I was a bodybuilder, and I've been bodybuilding for almost 5 years. And so I was up at 215 pounds when they cast me in this crucial role. And by the way, it had been cast twice before, and neither one of those guys worked out for whatever reason. And so they were 2.5 weeks out from starting to shoot, and they needed to shoot. So it was dead. It was, I got cast, and I had 2.5 weeks, and all they said was, we want you to lose some weight so you'll be closer to Matthew's weight. So I just did a kill, cut, meaning I just dropped 25 pounds in 2.5 weeks. And Matthew was doing nothing but eating, taking nutrients, working out, trying to build up. So it's just it's ironic that my character actually did everything that his character in the movie did as far as cutting weight and feeling lightheaded. And I actually got a bloody nose during the filming. I got elbowed and it wouldn't stop. And so we actually had to cauterize it with chemicals. They had a guy on the set that had to cauterize it so it would stop bleeding. So it's just so ironic that we have those characters, and I was actually doing everything that his character in the movie was doing. And I got to tell you, it got to the point where my delts were just aching because they were catabolizing for energy, because I'd gone down to 2 meals a day. I ate breakfast, I ate lunch. My last meal was at lunch. It was tuna on salad, a squeeze of lemon. And then I got on an exercise bike at around 4:30 for an hour. And so it was just this drastic cut. And I got down to 4% body fat. And I weighed 189 pounds at 4% body fat. And I want to say Matthew was right around that. He was just slightly taller than me. He's about 6'1". And he had built up, if you remember the scene where he's jumping rope right before the big match, and they've got the nice, the light coming down. He looked really good. He really put on the muscle. He really got himself in good shape.
It's a great scene, and wow, you should have just gone into a natural bodybuilding competition right afterwards with 4% body fat. Like film the scene on Friday and then go compete, go put some bronzer on and compete on Saturday.
Exactly.
Let's go after the movie. You shoot the film. You're still in college. What happens to life after the film is released for you? I mean, you clearly put the weight back on, I would assume, to walk around at closer to 110, 115 rather than at 189, because maintaining 4% body fat is extremely difficult on a daily basis.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, I was just absolutely agreeing with you.
So when you bulk back up, what is the reaction in northeastern Washington? At the university, on the border of Iowa, Spokane. You're not that far from everything. So now it's a local story, and all of a sudden you're a local boy who's in college there.
Yeah, it's so. Okay, I just gotta kind of back up a little bit. So I dropped that 25 pounds, and then we shot for 10 weeks. So then I went back to school. I thought, okay, I did my job. I wanted to do the best I possibly could. And anytime I do something, and it's like anybody, anytime you do anything, you want to get 110%. You don't want to like, oh, I should have, could have. Like, this is your one chance to make it the best it possibly can be. And so I just made that hard cut. I maintained that weight for 10 weeks. Then I went back to school. I thought, okay, I'm done. And so 3 months later, I get a phone call. Oh, hey, we want to do one more scene. And I'm like, hey, I went back to bodybuilding. I'm at 217 pounds. Now I bumped up now. I'm at 217 pounds, right? And they said, oh, well, we need this one scene. So I said, okay, I made a commitment to the film. I'm going to drop the weight. So I had a month this time. They gave me enough of a heads up. So I took 30 days. I dropped the weight. I flew to California. We shot for 3-4 days. Then I flew back, went back to school. I'm back in school again. 3 months later, I get another phone call. We got one more scene we want to do, Frank. I'm like, hey, you need to tell the the director that I'm now weighing 225 pounds because I'm getting ready for a competition now. And they said, oh, well, don't worry about it. No, I said, yes, worry about it. Call him now, let him know. And within 5 minutes, Harold Becker gets on the phone. He goes, Frank, you got to start losing weight. I said, Harold, I said, I'm not going to go down to 189 again. I'll go down to 200 pounds. And that's what I can do this time. Because it's really unhealthy to do that, up and down, up and down. It's just not good. And I tell people this all the time. It's like, I didn't do it I didn't do it the healthy way. I did it the hard cut way and got it done, but it wasn't healthy. And so it's not good to do that. Well, I dropped down, did the scene, came down here. It was the scene, by the way, where I was wearing the jean jacket. And it's like, you're the bleeder, 60 seconds on the mat and your dog meat scene. So when you see me walking away, you can see, if you really look closely, I actually weighed more than I did in any other scene in that movie. But I was wearing a jean jacket and jeans, so it's not so maybe noticeable. So I went back to school again. Then the movie came out about 3 months after that, in the beginning of 1985, I want to say, in February 15th, somewhere around there. And after the movie came out, then I got a call from a talent agency out in New York. And they said, hey, we really liked your work in Vision Quest. We'd like to represent you. Would you be willing to meet with some of our agents in LA? And my brother lived here in Los Angeles. My sister lived in Los Angeles. So I said, yeah, sure. And so I went, interviewed. I didn't sign with APA. I signed with another agency. I put everything I owned in my little 280ZX. That's all I had, what I could fit in my 280ZX. I drove to California and I slept on the floor in my brother's room until I could find a place to land, which I finally did. But I came to Los Angeles to learn about acting, to get, to see what else I could do. And so I was in the acting business for about 3 years after that.
And you hung out for about 3 years, but you didn't you pursued it to an extent, but you didn't go like gung-ho, sacrifice your whole life and your mentality for it. What was the point for you that you're like, you know what, I really need to focus on my studies, and decided to go into Eastern medicines?
Well, listen, so I came, and because I had no acting experience, I started going to acting class. And that was Monday through Friday from 6 to midnight. And then the rest of the time I took a job at USPS to postal delivery. I was a sorter. So that I would go to work from like 4:30 to midnight. Or actually it was 11:30 to 8 a.m. in the morning. Then I'd go to auditions during the day. I'd go to classes at night. So I go classes from 6 to midnight. I get off of class and go do from midnight to 8 a.m. and then, for UPS. And then I would go to my auditions during the day. And it was 3 years, and I actually got a national commercial. I did a TV show. I did another really junky piece of crap movie, and I was working at the Universal Studios doing a live action Conan show. I don't know if you remember Conan, but they had a live action show up at Universal Studios. I didn't play Conan. I played the double swordsman. So I'd been working, but I did what most actors do. I kind of starved myself. I drank too much coffee. I didn't get good nutrition, and my health went completely, I'd lost it completely. I was just really sick and unhealthy, and I knew I needed to change things. I loved the acting. I hated the business. So I said, I'm going to go get my degree. I want to, follow back up on my healing. And so that's where I said, I remember acupuncture was something I had been connected to when I was young. Let's head in that direction. Let's see where it takes me.
And when you go that route, and it's a certain type of recovery. I mean, your health was sacrificed. How does the workouts change? I mean, it's no longer bodybuilding, heavy lifting 3 to 6 days a week. Do you switch into like a yoga, Pilates type workout? Do you go far more calisthenic exercises? Like, how does that change, from lifting the heavy weights and grappling to whatever routine you decided to take afterwards, and then focus on the medicines and the philosophy?
Yeah. It was, so I was going to Eastern Washington. I was 3 days on, 1 day off. I did that for almost 3 years straight. I never went to any parties. I didn't drink. I was really dedicated. And once I stepped into the weight room, I was an animal. I just really tore it up to the point that I could barely walk out of there every night, and I'd be at home just aching, either like my legs or my back or my biceps or my chest. So that did change completely. So now it's just about refining. It's just about maintaining. It's about leaning out. Because there's only so many roles for actors as these big hulks. Although all of a sudden now you have Dwayne Johnson, you've got, his friends, you've got David Bautista. I mean, all these great WWF guys that are huge are getting these incredible roles now. But I leaned out because I wanted to be more versatile. So yeah, that changed dramatically. I used, because I knew, bodybuilding, I knew nutrition because of my background, my pre-med. I was in the athletic training program. So I was a personal trainer. That's what I did to put myself through school. And so I still would go to the gym and train, but nothing like what I was doing previously.
And I mean, you were still lifting weights, but does it change from, the 3 sets of 10, which has kind of been the standard for the last 40 years, to, we'll do 4 sets of 20, reduce the weight and focus more on form? Like, what are your workouts now, essentially, in comparison to, everything else, especially now that you've moved on from competition?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, in order to have a competitive bodybuilding body, you have to be fully engaged. That means you need to eat like these big meals. And I still have to kind of pull myself back. Like, I don't need to eat this much food. So I've refined how much that I eat. I don't have to get in. I mean, I would have 12 eggs for breakfast, and 4 or 5 pancakes. And then I was having 5 platefuls of food at Eastern Washington when I would have dinner. It would just be a plate of chicken breast. It'd be a plate of spaghetti. And I would do that back and forth. I didn't know what greens were at the time. I've become very good, friends with them now. And I think that there is a really important place for greens in my life. And salads have become really a really great source of nutrition, and then foliage and roughage, and it keeps my body lean. Anyway, so it's gone from just, really hardcore lifting to just, hey, I'm 61. I'll be 62 this year. And so I just need to kind of maintain it. So I have cellular memory from all the hard work I put in. So for me now, I do sets. I do like a circuit training. I'll do dumbbells, and I'll just, do 15 reps, and I'll do 2 sets per body part, and I'll go until I'm done. It takes me like 20 minutes, 30 minutes to do like 3 to 4 sets, and then I'm done.
And you still have all your hair, so I'm even more envious.
Well, some of it. I don't have all of it.
Hey, it's better than mine, so we're all right, man. But
you're cut down on your shampoo use. You've got, you don't have hair products you have to deal with. Like, I don't know what I'm doing with this thing right now, So it's a mystery to me.
Right. It would be a mistake not to ask this. since the title of the movie is Vision Quest and it tied into the whole Native American aspect of Vision Quests, what was your own personal, we'll use the phrase Vision Quest,
Right.
for your own personal revelation or awakening for the great next phase of your life when you were younger that led you into Eastern medicine?
So, wow, this is such an interesting thing because I really feel like the movie then put me on a completely different course. I was going to be a bodybuilder. That was it, and I was going to get my degree, and I was probably going to go into, PT. So once you get your athletic training degree, then you can apply to PT school, and it gives you a big leg up because we put in 4,000 hours in the athletic training room. So for me, I was just gun ho, and I was all about bodybuilding. That was, as I said, I did nothing but train and study and eat. And Vision Quest came along, and I kept trying to go back to it, and it kept pulling me. It pulled me back 3 times and saying, like, the universe is trying to tell you something, pal. You need to be listening. Like, no, you don't want to go down the bodybuilding road because eventually you're going to have to really power up with the steroids. And it's not a necessarily healthy life on a lot of levels. The way they have to eat, how much weight they have to put on, how hard they have to cut, and then during those cuts, how dangerous that can be at times. Bodybuilders have died because they've used diuretics and different things like that to really strip the water, out. So to me, the universe was saying, this is not your path. And so this diversion to come to California and to study acting was such a departure from this total physical being. It became a very spiritual process because acting is all about channeling energy, and you have to be in touch with your feelings, emotions. You have to engage them. You have to not be afraid. And so I was also the middle child that didn't speak in the family. So I had to learn, and I'm still working on that, how to speak better, how to express myself better. And it was a deep dive into my psyche. And I studied with a guy named John Sarno, who was a Lee Strasberg acolyte, meaning he actually was an assistant for Lee Strasberg for 7 years, lived in Lee Strasberg's house, for 3 years, was his personal assistant. And it was a very good actor in his right. And so the method really is about connecting, like finding where your trauma is in your body, releasing it, finding out where your emotions are held in your body, using that. Big eye opener in this process. I started doing Qigong every morning. I would stand on the beach, at sunrise and practice Qigong. And so it was a lot more about energetic, inner work. And that was this whole, what I called my vision quest. It was like I came to LA and this was a quest, and I was finding a whole new part of myself. And along with that, in the downfall of my whole physical being, I realized I needed to get better, and as far as my health was concerned, so I went back into that healing modality, which intrigued me the most, which was acupuncture and Eastern medicine.
I've heard in comparison that you see these power lifters, you see these strong men, and in some instances with the bodybuilders that have just become mass monsters that similar to obesity, I'm pretty heavy set as it is right now. The body itself, the skeletal structure and everything else, mass is mass in a sense, whether it's all muscle or all fat. Once you get to a certain point or over a certain weight, it's going to affect your skeletal structure, whether it's your joints or ligaments or whatever else. What would you recommend, whether for the extreme strength athlete or the extremely obese, and how to get to a middle ground and live at a healthy weight?
Wow. Okay. So it becomes very individualistic. And this is one of the things that I do. I do what's a PNP program, personal nutrition program. So you just have to hit me up at shuteshirts.com, SHUTE at shuteshirts.com. Personal message me, and I do consultations, phone consultations. I have them fill out forms, And then we talk about lifestyle choices. You know, some people, there is specific nutritional deficiencies or organ dysfunction. So those need to be repaired before the body's going to function properly. Maybe they don't even break down protein, so they can't absorb it. Maybe their colon is dysregulated. Maybe there's some SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, that has to be addressed. If there's dysbiosis, that has to be addressed first, and that means leaky gut. That means that if it's like a boat, there's like holes all through the boat and water's coming in. So you keep trying to throw it out, but the water keeps coming in. Until you seal that up, you're not going to have health. And the gut is the microbiome. The gut is where just about everything originates. And this is our core. This is like our earth in the cycle of earth, wind, fire, air, water. It is the foundation on which everything else is created. So I have to actually get into a very personal with each person. But if I give like a general, this is my general thing, is that 3/4 of your plate should be vegetables and salad. 1/4 should be lean protein and a healthy fat at every meal. And by that, I mean avocado, walnuts, olive oil, ghee, grass-fed butter. These are super important. We think we got into this low-fat concept, and it destroyed people's immune systems. It dysregulated their hormones. And so you have to have healthy fats, so you can't like, oh, I'm going to cut weight and cut all the fats. No, I usually tell people, if you want to get lean or you want to drop unwanted weight, then you remove the grains primarily and get rid of all the, what I call pro-inflammatory foods. That's the gluten, the soy, the dairy, the corn, peanuts, sweeteners, artificial sweeteners, and for some people, eggs. And the reason I say pro-inflammatory foods is because we've done years and years of blood tests and find that these are the primary foods that most people have issue with. So I just test people for those. We start there, and we reset and get them on a very clean diet. I put them on an exercise program. I think you need to incorporate that as well. I think movement is great. I don't think it's the whole answer, but it has to be part of it. Sleep is like integral. You have to be getting 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep a night. If your cortisol levels are high because you're not getting enough sleep, then it's going to prevent you from dropping weight. So that's just one thing. There's so much that goes on in that period of sleep that resets the brain. It allows your brain to be flushed of toxins. And if you're not getting that done, then you have the potential to have dementia or Alzheimer's down the road. This is how serious sleep is. There was a test, a really great study done at Stanford with women's tennis. And they said, okay, you're going to sleep for 10 hours every night for 2 weeks. They did a pre and a post test. They found that their speed just on their sprint was better. Their ability to decide which shot to hit and then to execute that shot was much better. So they became better athletes just by getting more sleep. So that's how, it's like, I could go on and on. There's a book that's written about it, why we need sleep. If you're really interested in it, read that book. As a neuroscientist out of Northern California's university there. Anyway, he's Walker, I think is his last name. Anyway, it just so much importance about sleep. Now, I also think hydration is key. Your mindset is key. Resetting the sympathetic dominance issue, because people are stressed to the max. And if you're stressed, it's hard for you to regulate properly. Anyway, so that's just a few of the pieces that I go through, and it's very complex, and each person is very individual.
The time we live in right now in this world is very stressful. I mean, people have lost their jobs. There's a rent moratorium that's going to end possibly in February in California. Which people thought was a great idea to keep extending it until, the bank comes to collect, and then it's going to cause even more stress. But you mentioned sleep quite a bit. Like for myself, I have trouble falling asleep. Do you have any tricks for people like myself to get to sleep faster for a better quality night's sleep rather than tossing and turning? Like, I will start on one side, I'll roll over to the other side, and then eventually end up sleeping either on my chest or on either side, very rarely my back. What recommendations would you give for someone to fall asleep faster?
Okay, so you want to start at least in a prepping. You want to start like an hour out. You want to move, stop, using phones and computers and iPads and maybe even watching TV, because they'll all stimulate the pineal gland that tells your body you stay awake, and there's still daylight. You can do the blue blockers if you are on those, but you really want to start down regulating for an hour before. You can take a hot bath. You can also read. You can drink a cup of chamomile. That's a really nice little tea beforehand. I think that reading in bed right before you go to sleep, and I say read in bed, but choose something that's really going to, support your mindset, support your positive and your intentions for the year. Okay. So, you don't want to read something that's dark, and that you're going to take into your dream state. Read something that's uplifting, that's spiritual, that's insightful, that's going to be fulfilling on some level. Then, of course, then we have to check in, because is it an adrenal issue? Is it a liver issue? I had one patient that was just dehydrated and her tongue was dried and she drank too much coffee and it was impacting her liver. And so in Oriental medicine, at night, the shin goes inward and resides in your chest. And it's a subtle energy. So if you look in somebody's eyes, their eyes show you the shin. So when they're drunk, you notice their eyes are blurry. They're not focused. So their shin is disturbed. And if you see somebody on the street that's been on the street a while, they have disturbed shin almost all day long. So their shin is like flying all over the place. It's not grounded. It's not seated. So at night, your shin goes inward and resides in your chest. And it's a very subtle energy. And so if your liver is toxic, it's like a yang, it's like a fire, and your shin is like a feather. So if you have a feather over a fire, your brain's not going to, it's like your shin is not going to relax. You're not going to start to down-regulate. It's going to be stirred, and you're going to be activated, and any little sound and any little discomfort. So that's one possibility, or a couple possibilities there. I love the use of a product that I have that is called Minchex from Standard Process. I use L-theanine because L-theanine is an amino acid. I don't like Ambien and some of these other ones. They're incredibly dangerous. They increase your mortality rate, and they really dysregulate the brain and the pineal gland and the cortisol and melatonin ratio, because they're balanced back and forth. So there's a lot there to cover, but just some details of starting to downregulate, remove yourself from the phones and tablets and all that, and read a book, have some chamomile tea. I have also incorporated a little CBD, THC combination for myself, and I find that really does make a difference. So now we have access to this incredible herb that can be very helpful as well.
Gotcha. Since I have you here and your expertise is Eastern medicine, why have we become so reliable on the pharmaceutical versus the holistic? I myself am a person of faith, and so the notion that God gave us the earth to, although we have to toil with it, but this is God's creation. So why wouldn't we use something that is regulated to us by God rather than regulated to us by a laboratory?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand antibiotics and vaccines and the importance of all those, but I'm saying certain elements, like why would I take an ambient versus something that has, a specific natural amount of magnesium or zinc that'll help me fall asleep faster?
Right on. And that's another good product that I also use is magnesium, because it helps relax the muscles, and it also has some other benefits. And we have a tendency to be deficient in magnesium as well as zinc, as well as vitamin D3 as a society. And I think that goes back to overprocessed foods. I think that goes back to our diets. But I also think that we've gotten into this society, or this awareness that instant gratification, because you can like, oh, I can just Google that. I can just get that. I can just buy that from Amazon. It's here the next day. We've lost this understanding that, and people are still like, oh, well, I don't want to change my lifestyle. I just want to, to just keep doing what I'm doing. So just give me that pharmaceutical and I don't have to change anything. Change is difficult. It requires you to make some shifts, and it's hard to break old patterns, so it's much more difficult to reset on that level unless you're of the mindset that you are, which is like, I want to do this naturally. I don't want to just cover up, which is what happens most of the time when you're taking pharmaceuticals. It's not healing. It's not fixing. It's dealing with the symptom. It's not dealing with the root. And the reason that is so profound in our community is because pharmaceutical companies are super powerful, one of the most powerful lobbyists in the country. And look how many commercials you're bombarded with between every show. And you just keep seeing that. And they keep saying, like, tell your doctor to, like, ask your doctor about this, and tell your doctor you want this. And, they have a very big platform. And we've locked into this thing of giving our power away to the pharmaceutical companies and to doctors. And I've seen a lot of shift recently that there's doctors that like realized that Western medicine was not healing, and they've gone to holistic means and treating their people with herbs and nutrients and lifestyle changes. And I'm seeing more and more of that. So I have hope. I feel like we're turning a corner and we're starting down another road that will kind of grasp. And this is one of the all-time things that I think that we've lost, is that we've lost that connection with the earth. We've lost our connection with our own core energy, and just being able to connect on another level. Everything is like, how often you see people sitting at a table and they're all on their phones. Nobody's talking. They're like all on their phones. They're disconnected even at a time when they should be all having this nice conversation and sharing thoughts and ideas.
No, it really is what's going on with society and everything. And, I've been guilty of that, playing with my phone with company around, whether it was, a work email or something of that sort. Before I let you go, because I know the world is falling apart all over California, and you have a lot going on. What is your recommendation for people that want to try to, like you said, reconnect with the planet and the earth itself, in order to make the simplest step to change their lifestyle for a healthier future?
So it's simple, and as far as the grocery store is concerned, don't shop in the middle of don't shop in the middle, shop on the edges. Go for get as close to nature as possible with your foods that are unprocessed and grown organically whenever you possibly can. You want grass-fed meats, you want organic raised vegetables. I avoid dairy pretty much. If I do any dairy, it's sheep or goat. I recommend that you walk in nature whenever you can, and especially now when there's really not much else to do. But if you can, get in nature as often as possible. Walk on the beach with your shoes off. Walk on the grass with your shoes off. Sit and just breathe. Just having that, this breath meditation is just, this is me breathing in. This is me breathing out. Then when all your thoughts start to come in, monkey mind goes crazy. You just go back to, this is me breathing in, this is me breathing out. And what happens is, at a certain point in time between this internal dialogue, there's a space, and there's an emptiness in that space where you can really connect with your higher self, whatever you call your higher self. I don't care what religion. I'm not specific in my religion. I have worked with Native Americans and cord cutting. I've worked with the Dalai Lama at the Kali Chakra initiation. I've done Buddhist meditations, and so I studied at the Self-Realization Fellowship. So I love all of those things and I draw from all of those. So I don't profess to be one or the other, and I don't have a say about where you should land. You need to find kind of where your center, feels right, what works for you. And just setting that intention every day just to be a better person, be kinder to yourself, be kinder to others. It's pretty simple. It's like the golden rule. You just have to adapt it and be willing to step. Hey, listen, if somebody cuts me off in traffic, I flip them off. Come on, I get upset, but I try and recover. I try not to chase them down and, run into the back end of them because I'm angry with them. I try to move on as quickly as I can. But hey, we're all human beings. We have good days. We have bad days. And so you just have to have, set your intention to have more good days and just continue to grow.
I dig it. Frank Jasper, star of Vision Quest 35th anniversary just passed, also known as Shute in the film. Where can we find you on social media, and where can we find your website if we want to connect with you and get, one of those tests with you and possibly acupuncture if we come up to Northern California?
So I just moved to Carmel, California. I'm still in this process of reorganizing here. It looks like I'll start a practice right next door. There's a woman that's asked me to join her practice. So that'll probably happen in the next month. Meanwhile, I'm spending most of my time doing nutritional consultation, which, like I said, you can just reach out to me at shuteshirts.com. My other business is my Osani business, Osani Health. That's OSANI health.com. That's where I have a store where you can buy the nutrients, which I recommend. I recommend specific nutrients to support and fortify your immune system because COVID's here. We're all going to have some impact. It'll have some impact on us. And if you are fortified and protected, that means you're just tougher to kill. And that's what we want, because we don't know how well the vaccines are going to work, when we're going to get them. Are they going to impact the variant that now is coming out? So how much of an impact will it have on that? How much of an immunity will it allow us? So my thing is get your, self, what can you control? That's where I put my energy. So I'm building my immune system. I stay active, I hydrate, I rest, I eat right, I take the right nutrients, and I have to I keep working on my positive mindset. So OsaniHealth.com, ShuteShirts.com is the other site. And so I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I think it's Vision Quest _ Shute 1985 is my Instagram. Oh my God, I can't even remember all of those social media things. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is, man. But don't worry, we'll find it and link everything.
That's where I connect with people like this. This is where I connect with people. I meet some just cool, coaches. I support kids. I see these kids that are coming up. I see some that are progressed along. I love following them. I love interacting with them. I love talking to nutrition to them. So anyway, what were you going to say?
Actually, let's touch on that real quick with your influence in the wrestling community still. I know the film had to have added to it, but what goes on pre-COVID when you were involved in these tournaments and these dual meets and watching kids and helping the sport along?
That's when it becomes for me the funnest part of this whole thing, how it's all come to fruition, and that people still love the character. I get to go. I was just at a big tournament last year in Arizona on the reservation, and I felt love from the coaches, the parents, the wrestlers. They have the affinity for Vision Quest. They love talking about the movie, and sometimes I think they're a little surprised that I'm an old, I'm 61, because I think they're expecting Shute to come walking in there, but it's been 35 plus years. So that's the only thing I'm like, wow. I don't want to disappoint anybody, so I do my best to stay in shape, but that's when I really get to connect with these people one-on-one and just, I have the best time doing that.
I dig it, man. Any final words that you want to say to the audience, to the young wrestlers out there that are training, that can then finally engage in dual meets and tournaments once we get past the world at large?
Yeah. So again, I also do a nutritional podcast every week. Look for that through compedge.com or .us. I'm sorry, compedge.us. That's another. I've signed with this apparel company, and we do a nutrition podcast. So listen to that, because I talk about how to cut weight in a healthy way. I talk about nutrition. I talk about sleep. I talk about hydration. I talk about exercising. So I cover all these subjects, and they can ask me questions. They can connect with me. And listen, man, we're in this together. Everybody's got to do this at the same time. That's the only way we're going to get through COVID, which means social distance, wash your hands, wear a mask. Be smart, be mindful, of other people's space and distance. Don't be the problem, be the solution. And if you're not, then everything that we're doing to try and keep these events going is going to be disrupted. And that's the last thing you want to do. So, hey, wear a mask, wash your hands, keep your distance. It's simple. These are they're not perfect, but every piece makes a difference.
And be smart about it too. Don't have the windows rolled up in the car, sitting by yourself wearing the mask. Don't suffocate yourself that route. But when you're in public, take responsibility.
Absolutely. Whenever you can, I pull that mask down when I'm not around anybody, because fresh air is very important. That's part of getting to the beach, getting into nature, and being outside in fresh air is also really helpful. They found in the flu, Spanish flu, most of the people that were sitting outside of the tents did much better and recovered faster. So we have a precedence for that, but it's just clear that fresh air is really important as well.
Perfect. Frank Jasper, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on all your success, all your education, everything that you're doing in the world. Who would have thought 35 years later this movie would still be impacting everybody and influencing your life on top of everything else? Vision Quest 35th anniversary is available through Warner Archives. Frank Jasper, you can go through Shute Shirts and all his other websites that we'll link below. Again, man, thank you so much.
Cheers. All right.